The scent of garlic and fresh basil filled the cramped kitchen of the Hope Community Center. Maria's hands moved with practiced grace, guiding Rosa's fingers through the delicate fold of empanada dough. 5 months into a marriage that felt like a prison sentence, this dingy room had become her only sanctuary. Like this? Rosa asked, her calloused hands trembling slightly. Perfect. You're a natural. The door opened. Dorothy entered with a woman whose silver hair and tailored suit screamed money and power. Maria, this is Catherine Walsh. She runs the Walsh Foundation. Catherine's sharp eyes swept the room before landing on Maria. Pierce? As in Jonathan Pierce? Maria's stomach tightened. Even here, his shadow found her. Yes. Interesting. Catherine's expression gave nothing away. I need a director for a culinary training institute in Charleston. Dorothy says you're exactly who I'm looking for. The class continued, but Maria's mind raced. After the students left, she sat across from Catherine in the tiny office. $85,000 annually, Catherine said. Housing assistance. Full benefits. You'd be training women from disadvantaged backgrounds, giving them real careers. She paused. But it requires relocation. I need to know if your circumstances allow that. Maria's throat tightened. $85,000 was nothing compared to the fortune she had access to as Jonathan's wife. But it was everything. Her own money. Her own life. Earned, not given. My circumstances. The words tasted bitter. You mean my husband. I mean your life, Catherine corrected gently. This is your decision, Maria. Not his. That night, Maria returned to the penthouse. The lights of Central Park glittered below, beautiful and cold. Jonathan stood by the window, still in his suit, his reflection ghost-like in the glass. You're late, he said without turning. I had a meeting after class. Class. He said it like a foreign word. Still playing teacher? Something inside Maria snapped. I'm not playing anything. Unlike this. She gestured at the space between them. This performance we call a marriage. Jonathan turned slowly. His gray eyes held something dangerous. Careful, Maria. Or what? You'll what, exactly? Ignore me more. Treat me like furniture. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing. The words echoed in the vast space. You bought me. Like you buy hotels and businesses and whatever else you want. But you can't buy what matters. His jaw clenched. What do you want from me? I want you to feel something. Anything. Her voice broke. But you're not capable of that, are you? The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Maria's phone buzzed. A text from Catherine, 3 weeks. That's all the time I can give you. Choose your life, Maria. She looked at Jonathan, at this stranger she'd married, and realized she'd already made her choice. I'm leaving you, she whispered. His expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Something almost like panic. You can't. Watch me. 3 days passed in suffocating silence. Maria packed her belongings in the guest room, each folded shirt and rolled pair of jeans a small act of rebellion. The designer clothes stayed in the closet, untouched. They'd never been hers anyway. Jonathan disappeared into his work, leaving before dawn, returning after midnight. When their paths crossed, he looked through her as if she were made of glass. On the 4th morning, Maria found him in the kitchen. He stood at the counter, coffee growing cold in his hand, staring at nothing. We need to discuss logistics, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. There's nothing to discuss. Jonathan, I'm taking the Charleston position. I leave in 2 weeks. His hand tightened around the cup. Your father's restaurants. The deal was contingent on this marriage. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Maria felt ice flood her veins. You'd destroy him? Because I won't play doll in your penthouse? I'd protect my investment. His voice was flat, businessman cold. That's what this has always been. Then do it. The words came out stronger than she expected. Ruin him. Ruin us. But I'm still leaving. Something cracked in Jonathan's expression. He set the cup down with shaking hands. Why? The single word sounded broken. Why isn't this enough? Because I'm dying here. Maria's composure shattered. Every day in this beautiful prison, I lose more of myself. You want to know what I want from you? I want you to see me. Not as a transaction or an asset. As a person. I do see you. Liar. Tears burned her eyes. You saw a solution to a problem. You saw connections and distribution networks. You never saw me. Jonathan's face went white. He opened his mouth, closed it. The mask he wore so carefully had cracks running through it now. You don't understand, he said finally. Then make me understand. I can't. He turned away. Go to Charleston. I'll honor the contract with your father regardless. You've earned that much. The concession should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like defeat. Maria left the kitchen, but paused in the doorway. Why did you marry me, Jonathan? The real reason. His shoulders tensed. For a moment, she thought he might actually answer. Then his phone rang, shattering the moment like glass. I have a meeting, he said, and walked past her without another word. That afternoon, Maria met Catherine at a cafe in Soho to sign the employment contract. Her hand trembled as she put pen to paper, but the signature came out clear and strong. You're doing the right thing, Catherine said. Then why does it feel like I'm breaking something? Catherine studied her with knowing eyes. Sometimes we have to break the wrong things to build the right ones. Maria's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, meet me at Starling's Brooklyn location. 8 p.m., come alone. We need to talk about Jonathan Pierce. Her blood went cold. Everything okay? Catherine asked. Maria forced a smile. Fine. Just family. But as she left the cafe, dread coiled in her stomach. Someone knew about the marriage, about the deal. And they wanted something. At 7:45 p.m., Maria stood outside her father's flagship restaurant, the place where this nightmare had begun. The windows glowed warm, filled with Friday night diners who had no idea what corruption had saved this building. A woman emerged from the shadows. Tall, blonde, beautiful in a predatory way. Her red dress looked painted on. Maria Pierce. Or should I say Maria Starling? You kept your maiden name on the employment contract. Smart. Who are you? The woman smiled, sharp and cruel. Vanessa Hart. Jonathan's ex-fiancée. The one he left 3 months before your father's financial troubles became public. She stepped closer. Tell me, did he mention me? Or was I just another inconvenient detail he erased? The world tilted sideways. That's impossible. He said. He said what? That he needed your father's connections? Vanessa laughed, brittle and bright. Oh honey. Jonathan Pierce has connections everywhere. He didn't need your father's dying restaurant chain. Then why? Because I wouldn't give him what he wanted. Vanessa's eyes glittered with malice. A perfect, obedient wife who'd stay home and smile and never ask questions. So he found someone desperate enough to play the part. Maria's knees almost buckled. You're lying. Am I? Vanessa pulled out her phone, swiped through photos. Jonathan and her at galas, on yachts, in intimate moments that spoke of years together. The last photo was dated 8 months ago. 2 months before he'd walked into her father's restaurant. "He used you," Vanessa said softly. "And now I'm going to use that. See, Jonathan's company is going public next month. Stock prices matter. Reputation matters. And a messy divorce from the naive girl he manipulated? That would tank everything he's built. What do you want? I want you to stay married. Play the devoted wife. And when the IPO goes through, I want you to sell me information. Board meeting details. Financial projections. The kind of insider trading that could make me very, very rich." Maria stared at her. "That's illegal. So is marrying someone under false pretenses to defraud investors." Vanessa's smile turned vicious. "Help me, or I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man Jonathan Pierce really is. Your father's reputation, your family's name, everything will burn. Your choice." She walked away, heels clicking on pavement like a countdown. Maria stood frozen, the contract with Catherine Walsh heavy in her purse, Vanessa's threat ringing in her ears. Her phone buzzed. "Jonathan, where are you?" She looked at the message, at the restaurant, at the life she'd tried to build from ashes. Everything she thought she knew was a lie. And now she had to decide which lie to live. Maria burst into the penthouse at midnight, fury and betrayal burning through her veins. Jonathan stood in the living room, tie loosened, scotch in hand. He looked up, and whatever he saw in her face made him set the glass down slowly. "Maria." "Vanessa Hart." The name came out like an accusation. "Your ex-fiancée. The woman you were with 8 months ago." The color drained from his face. "She told you." "She showed me." Maria threw her purse across the room. "Photos. Dates. Everything. You were engaged, Jonathan. You left her and found me like I was some replacement part you could order online. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me." She was shaking, months of swallowed pain erupting all at once. "Explain why you lied. Why you made me think my father's business was the reason when really you just needed a wife who'd be grateful enough not to ask questions." Jonathan's jaw clenched. "Vanessa is a liar. She had proof. She had photos." His voice rose for the first time since she'd known him. "Pictures don't show the whole story." "Then tell me the whole story." Maria screamed. "For once in this nightmare marriage, tell me the truth." The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Jonathan walked to the window, his back to her. When he spoke, his voice was raw. "My mother died when I was 12. Cancer. She spent 2 years in hospitals, and my father spent those 2 years building his company, too busy to visit, too important to care. When she died, he married his secretary 6 months later." He paused. "I swore I'd never be like him. That when I built something, when I had someone, I'd be different." Maria's anger faltered. "Vanessa and I were together for 3 years. I proposed because it was expected. Logical. She was from the right family, had the right connections." He turned, and his eyes held something Maria had never seen before, vulnerability. "But she wanted the same thing my father wanted. Someone to look good at parties. Someone to stay quiet and smile. She didn't want a partner. She wanted a bank account." "So you found me instead," Maria whispered. "No." Jonathan crossed the room, stopping just in front of her. "I found your father's restaurant failing and saw an opportunity. That part is true. But then I met you. You barely spoke to me during courtship. Because I couldn't." His hands clenched at his sides. "Every time you talked about cooking, about teaching, about changing lives, I saw everything I'd given up to build this empire. I saw passion and purpose, and it terrified me. So you married me and locked me in a cage. I married you and didn't know how to let you in. Jonathan's voice cracked. I told myself it was better to keep distance. Safer. If I didn't feel anything, I couldn't be hurt. Couldn't become my father. But you did become him, Maria said, tears streaming down her face. You became exactly what you feared. The words hit him like physical blows. He stepped back, something breaking in his expression. I know. It came out barely above a whisper. I know, and I don't know how to fix it. Maria wanted to scream at him. Wanted to hit him. Wanted to make him hurt the way she'd hurt for 5 months. But looking at him now, stripped of his armor, she saw something else, a man as trapped as she was, just in a different kind of cage. Vanessa wants me to commit corporate espionage, she said quietly. She wants insider information about your IPO. Says if I don't help her, she'll destroy your reputation and my father's in the process. Jonathan's head snapped up. What? She ambushed me tonight. Showed me the photos, made her threats. She knows about Charleston. Knows about the contract. Maria pulled out her phone, opened the message Vanessa had sent an hour ago, 24 hours to decide. Think carefully. Jonathan stared at the screen, then at Maria. You came back here. You could have gone to Charleston, disappeared, let her blow everything up. Why did you come back? The question hung in the air between them. Because despite everything, Maria said slowly, I needed to hear your side. I needed to know if there was anything real in this disaster we've created. Jonathan reached out, then stopped himself, his hand falling to his side. There is. I was just too much of a coward to admit it. Admit what? That somewhere between the wedding and now, between watching you leave before dawn to teach and finding the apartment smelling like you're cooking, I stopped seeing a transaction. His voice was raw, stripped of pretense. I started seeing you. And it scared me more than anything in my life. Maria's breath caught. Jonathan. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He glanced at the screen and his face went pale. It's Vanessa. He answered on speaker. Jonathan, darling. Her voice dripped venom. I assume Maria shared my proposal. But I'm calling with a better offer. Sell me 15% of your pre-IPO shares at current valuation, and I'll disappear. Refuse, and every investor will know you married a waitress to salvage a failing business deal. Wall Street doesn't like desperate men. I married a chef, Jonathan said coldly, who's worth more than you'll ever be. Silence on the line. Then Vanessa laughed, sharp and ugly. How touching. You've grown a conscience. Pity it's too late. She paused. I've already sent the story to 3 financial journalists. It goes live at 9 a.m. unless I get what I want. Your move. The line went dead. Jonathan and Maria stared at each other. If that story breaks, Jonathan said quietly, the IPO is dead. My company loses everything. Your father's contract becomes worthless. Everyone loses. Except Vanessa. Except Vanessa. Maria's mind raced. The Charleston position started in 10 days. She could still run, let this implode, start over. Or. What if there was another way, she said slowly. What way? What if we gave them a different story? Not the desperate businessman and the transaction bride. She stepped closer. What if we gave them a love story? Jonathan stared at her. You want to fight her lies with our own? No. Maria met his eyes. I want to fight her lies with the truth. You said something changed. That you started to see me. Make everyone else see it too. Convince the world we're real. Are we? The question came out broken. Real? Maria thought about the cooking classes, the penthouse that never felt like home, the 5 months of loneliness. But she also thought about the crack in his armor tonight, the vulnerability in his eyes, the way his voice had shaken when he admitted his fear. "I don't know yet," she whispered. "But we could be. If you're willing to actually try." Jonathan reached out, his hand trembling, and touched her face like she might shatter. "I don't know how." "Neither do I." She leaned into his palm, the first real touch they'd shared since their wedding night. "But we have until 9 a.m. to figure it out." His thumb brushed away a tear. "And if we fail? Then we burn together." Jonathan pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers, and for the first time since their wedding, Maria felt something other than cold in his touch. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For everything. Show me you mean it." His lips met hers, desperate and tender and terrified, and Maria kissed him back, tasting salt and scotch and the possibility of something real. When they broke apart, dawn was starting to break over Central Park. "We have 3 hours," Jonathan said. Maria pulled out her phone and started typing. "Then let's burn Vanessa's world before she can touch ours." The boardroom of Pierce Holdings gleamed in the early morning light. Jonathan sat at the head of the table, Maria beside him, facing 12 board members whose expressions ranged from confusion to hostility. At the far end, Vanessa stood with her lawyer, a shark in a $1,000 suit. "This is highly irregular," Richard Chen, the CFO, said. "Calling an emergency meeting 2 hours before a damaging story breaks." "Isn't as irregular as corporate blackmail," Jonathan interrupted. He pulled up an email on the projection screen. 3 days ago, Vanessa Hart contacted our lead IPO investor with allegations about my marriage. When he didn't bite, she went to the press. Her lawyer can confirm she's demanding 15% of my shares to make this disappear." Vanessa's smile didn't waver. "I'm simply protecting shareholders from fraud. You married a waitress to salvage a business deal. That's material information." "I married a culinary director," Maria said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "And I'm here to give the board the actual material information they need." She stood, activating her own presentation. The first slide showed her teaching at Hope Community Center. The second showed her contract with the Walsh Foundation. 5 months ago, I walked away from my life to marry Jonathan Pierce in what I believed was a business arrangement. My father's restaurants were failing. Jonathan needed connections. It was transactional. She paused. But what Vanessa's story won't tell you is what happened after. The next slides showed her students, their transformations, the community dinners. "I built a life outside this marriage. I earned my own income. I accepted a position in Charleston that would have allowed me to leave cleanly." Maria's voice strengthened. "I had every reason to walk away. Especially after Vanessa approached me last night, offering money to commit insider trading." Vanessa's lawyer shot to his feet. "That's slander. It's recorded." Jonathan played the audio from Maria's phone. Vanessa's voice filled the room, crystal clear, offering money for information and threatening to destroy reputations. The board members' faces shifted from skeptical to shocked. "You recorded me?" Vanessa hissed. "You threatened my family," Maria replied. "I protected myself." "This doesn't change the fundamental truth," Vanessa's lawyer argued. "The marriage was a business transaction." "That evolved into something real," Jonathan interrupted. He stood, moving to Maria's side. "Yes, I married her for business reasons. I won't lie to this board about my initial motivations. But what happened over 5 months was this: I watched my wife build something meaningful while I hid behind work. I watched her teach women to believe in themselves while I couldn't believe in anything but profit margins." His hand found Maria's. "She made me remember why I started this company. Not to build wealth. To create opportunities. To matter." He looked at the board. Maria has shown me that success without purpose is just expensive emptiness. And if this board can't see the value in that, in her, then I don't want to lead this company anymore." The silence was deafening. "You'd walk away?" Richard asked. "From everything you've built? For her?" Jonathan squeezed Maria's hand. "Yes." Maria's heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't the plan. They'd agreed to present a united front, show evidence of Vanessa's blackmail, ride out the scandal. But Jonathan was offering to sacrifice his entire empire. "Jonathan, no," she started. "The IPO can wait," he continued. "My marriage can't. If staying means compromising what Maria and I are building together, then I choose her." Vanessa laughed, brittle and desperate. "This is theater. You're performing for them." "Really?" Margaret Hayes, the oldest board member, spoke for the first time. "Because I've known Jonathan Pierce for 15 years, and I've never seen him perform anything. He doesn't know how." She looked at Maria. "What do you want, Mrs. Pierce?" The question landed like a stone in still water. Maria looked at the faces around the table. At Vanessa, whose desperation was showing through her polished exterior. At Jonathan, who just offered to burn his life down for her. At the presentation showing her students, her work, her purpose. "I want the truth," she said finally. "I married Jonathan in a business arrangement. That's fact. But what Vanessa's story won't show is that we're both trying to make it into something honest. Something real. It's messy and complicated and we're figuring it out day by day." She pulled up her final slide, the Charleston contract. "I was offered my dream job. Director of a culinary institute. Everything I've worked toward. And I was ready to take it, to leave this marriage behind." She looked at Jonathan. "But last night, he showed me something I hadn't seen before. Vulnerability. Truth. The person he is when he stops being afraid." "And that changed your mind?" Margaret asked. "No." Maria's voice was firm. "That made me realize I had a choice. Not between Jonathan and my career. Between running from something hard and fighting for something worth building." She met Vanessa's eyes. "So here's what's going to happen. The story goes live. Let it. Let them know we started as a transaction. But we're going to show them what we're becoming." "You're insane," Vanessa whispered. "I'm done hiding." Maria turned to Catherine Walsh's number on her phone, dialed, put it on speaker. "Catherine? It's Maria. About that Charleston position. Can it be remote? Part-time consulting to start?" Catherine's voice filled the room. "For the right person, we can be flexible." "Is this about your marriage?" "It's about having both. The work I love and the relationship I'm building." Maria looked at Jonathan. "If he's willing to meet me halfway." "I'll meet you anywhere," Jonathan said quietly. Margaret Hayes smiled, slow and knowing. "Well. This is the most interesting board meeting I've attended in 30 years. She looked at Vanessa. "Ms. Hart, I believe your blackmail attempt has failed spectacularly. Our lawyers will be in touch about the recording." Vanessa's lawyer grabbed her arm. "We're leaving. You'll be hearing from us." "No," Vanessa said, shaking him off. Her mask had cracked completely now, desperation and rage spilling through. "No, you don't get to win. Either of you." She looked at Jonathan. "You destroyed me. You left me like I was nothing." "I left you because you wanted to own me," Jonathan said, not unkindly. "There's a difference between a partner and a possession, Vanessa. I hope you learn that someday." She stood there, trembling, then turned and walked out, her heels echoing down the marble hallway. The board members began filing out, murmuring among themselves. Margaret paused beside Maria. "That was brave," she said. Messy, but brave. The best things usually are. When they were alone, Jonathan pulled Maria into his arms. "You gave up Charleston," he said against her hair. "I negotiated Charleston," she corrected. "There's a difference. And you offered to give up your company." "I would have." "I know." She pulled back to look at him. "That's why I'm staying. Not for the penthouse or the money or any of it. Because you finally let me see who you actually are. I'm still figuring that out." "Good." Maria smiled. "So am I. We'll figure it out together." His phone buzzed. A news alert: Pierce Holdings CEO addresses marriage controversy head-on, "We're building something real." Below it, social media was exploding with reactions. Some supportive, some cynical, most just fascinated by the drama. "We're a headline," Jonathan said. "We're honest." Maria kissed him, slow and deep. "For the first time, we're actually honest." When they left the building hand in hand, photographers swarmed. Questions flew like bullets. Maria tensed, but Jonathan squeezed her hand. "Together," he murmured. "Together." They faced the cameras, the questions, the chaos. And for the first time since their wedding day in Vegas, they did it as partners. But as they drove away, neither noticed the black car following them. Or the woman inside making one final phone call. Vanessa Hart didn't accept defeat. She embraced revenge. The call came at 3 a.m., shattering the first peaceful sleep Maria had experienced in months. Jonathan answered on the second ring, his body going rigid beside her. "What do you mean fire?" Maria sat up, heart hammering, as Jonathan threw on clothes with shaking hands. "It's your father's restaurant," he said, his face ashen. "The flagship location. Someone set it on fire." They reached Brooklyn as dawn broke, painting the smoke-stained sky in shades of ash and amber. Fire trucks still surrounded Starlings, though the flames were out. The building stood gutted, windows blown out, the sign her grandfather had painted hanging by twisted metal. Maria's father sat on the curb, face in his hands. Her sister Gabriella held him, tears streaming down her face. "Papa." Maria fell to her knees beside him. Antonio looked up, and the devastation in his eyes broke her heart. 30 years. Gone. "It's not gone," she whispered. "We'll rebuild." "With what?" His voice cracked. "Insurance won't cover arson. The other locations can't support the debt. We're finished, Maria." A fire marshal approached Jonathan, handed him a preliminary report. Maria saw his jaw clench as he read. "Accelerant found in 3 locations. Security footage shows someone entering through the kitchen entrance at 1 a.m. He looked at Maria. Someone who knew the building layout. Vanessa. The name didn't need to be spoken. They both knew. Jonathan's phone rang. He walked away to answer, his voice low and urgent. When he returned, his face was grave. "That was my lawyer. Vanessa's filed a lawsuit. She's claiming I breached a verbal contract, promised her a board seat and shares, then reneged when I met you. She's suing for $50 million in damages." "That's insane," Maria breathed. "It's strategic." Jonathan rubbed his face. "Even if we win, the legal fees and negative publicity will tank the IPO. Without that capital injection, Pierce Holdings can't expand. And your father's contract was contingent on that expansion." The trap closed around them perfectly. Vanessa had ensured that fighting her would destroy them just as completely as surrender. "So we pay her," Maria said. "Give her what she wants. I don't have $50 million liquid. I'd have to sell shares, dilute my control of the company. The board would vote me out within a month. Then what?" Jonathan looked at the burned building, at her father's broken expression, at the empire crumbling around them. When he spoke, his voice was steady. I call her. I offer her what she actually wants. Which is me. He met Maria's eyes. An annulment. A public statement that you were a mistake, that she and I are reconciling. She drops the lawsuit, I save the company, the IPO goes forward. Your father's contract stays intact. Maria's blood went cold. No. Maria. No. Her voice rose. After everything, after finally finding something real, you'd throw it away? To save your family? Yes. Jonathan's hands shook as he reached for her. You came into this to protect them. Let me finish what we started. By sacrificing us? By being the man I should have been from the beginning. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. Someone who puts the people he loves before himself. The word hung in the air between them. You love me, Maria whispered. God help me, I do. Jonathan's voice broke. Which is why I can't watch your father lose everything because I was too selfish to fix my own mistakes. Vanessa wants me humiliated, wants you erased. Fine. I'll give her the performance of a lifetime if it means you and your family survive. Maria stared at him, this man who'd bought her like property, ignored her like furniture, and was now offering to destroy their fragile beginning to save her father. There has to be another way. There isn't. Not one that keeps everyone whole. Jonathan cupped her face. I need you to trust me. Please. Behind them, Antonio made a sound like something breaking. Gabriella was on her phone, probably trying to explain to the insurance company why they had nothing left. Maria thought about the cooking classes, the students whose lives she'd changed. About Catherine's offer sitting in her email, still flexible, still possible. About the ring on her finger that had felt like a shackle but had somehow become a promise. She thought about Jonathan 5 months ago, cold and distant in their Vegas suite. And Jonathan now, willing to walk back into that cage to set her free. No, she said finally. Maria. No. She gripped his hands. You don't get to make this choice alone. We're partners now, remember? She pulled out her phone, dialed Vanessa's number. It rang twice. Calling to surrender? Vanessa's voice was smug. Calling to offer a deal, Maria said. Drop the lawsuit. Leave my father's restaurant alone. In return, I give you what you actually want. Jonathan? Better. Maria's voice was steel. The story. The real one. Not the sanitized version for the board. I'll give an exclusive interview detailing every moment of our transactional marriage. How Jonathan pursued me when I was desperate. How he ignored me for months. Every ugly, humiliating detail. Maria, don't, Jonathan said, but she shook her head. You'll get your revenge, Maria continued. Jonathan's reputation takes the hit. Public opinion shifts to you as the wronged woman. And you walk away with your lawsuit dropped because I'll make it clear the marriage was over before it began. Silence on the line. Then, and what do you get? My family keeps their restaurant. The insurance claim goes through because there's no financial motive for arson anymore. And I walk away clean to Charleston. You'd destroy him? Vanessa sounded almost impressed. I'd tell the truth. Maria looked at Jonathan, saw the pain and love and acceptance in his eyes. All of it. Including the part where we tried to make it real and failed. Some stories don't get happy endings, Vanessa. This is one of them. Another pause. One interview. Full access. And you file for divorce within the week. Done. Then we have a deal. The line went dead. Maria lowered the phone, her hands shaking. Jonathan pulled her into his arms. You just traded everything we built, he said against her hair. I traded a story for lives that matter. She pulled back. The interview will destroy your reputation. Your board might still vote you out. But your company survives. My father survives. Sometimes that's enough. And us? Maria kissed him, soft and final. We were always temporary, Jonathan. You said it yourself on our wedding night. This was a transaction. It stopped being a transaction, he whispered fiercely. You know it did. I know. Tears streamed down her face. But some things you can't save, no matter how much you want to. I learned that from you. The interview aired 3 days later. Maria sat across from a journalist and told every painful truth. The arranged marriage. The isolation. The coldness. She was honest about her initial motivations, about Jonathan's, about how they'd both tried to make something real from broken pieces. The public response was brutal. Jonathan's reputation took the hit Maria had promised. But the lawsuit disappeared. The arson investigation shifted away from Vanessa. Antonio's insurance paid out. Starlings would rise from the ashes. Maria's marriage would not. 6 months later, Maria stood in the kitchen of the Charleston Culinary Institute, watching her first class of 15 women learn to make fresh pasta. The divorce had been finalized 2 months prior. Jonathan hadn't fought it. They hadn't spoken since she'd walked out of the penthouse with 2 suitcases and a broken heart. After class, she found an envelope slipped under her office door. Inside was a check for the exact amount Antonio needed to rebuild, and a note in Jonathan's precise handwriting. For your father. No strings. No transaction. Just what should have been done from the beginning. You were right, Maria. Some stories don't get happy endings. But they can still have honest ones. Thank you for teaching me the difference. Always, Jay. Maria pressed the note to her chest, tears streaming down her face. That evening, she stood on her small balcony overlooking Charleston's historic district. The life she'd built was modest but hers. The work she did mattered. The students she taught changed lives. She was alone. She was free. She was complete. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, teaching position opening at Pierce Holdings' new culinary training facility in Manhattan. Starting salary, $150K. Housing included. Interested? No strings attached. Just an offer from someone who finally understands what matters. Your choice, Maria. It's always been your choice. Below it, a photo, Jonathan at a construction site, hard hat on, standing beside a sign that read, Pierce Starling Culinary Institute, opening fall 2026. Maria stared at the message for a long time. Then she smiled, tears and hope mixing on her face, and began to type. Some stories didn't get happy endings. But some got honest ones. And some, if you were very lucky and very brave, got second chances. The end. Which team are you on? Blue Heart Team Maria, independence first. Red Heart Team Jonathan, love conquers all. Purple Heart Team second chances, both deserve happiness.